In this tutorial, I'm going to take my column that I made for class. I'm going to import it into the Unreal Editor. Now, I've already created a project and I brought in my weapon racks. So I'm just going to keep going back to that same project to bring in other assets. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to bring in the column. So here is my folder with my column inside of it. And you can see that I have my textures. And I also have my substance file as well as my high poly and low poly. Now, if you remember, our column was uniquely unwrapped, so we don't need to worry about making light map, a second set of light map UVs for it. The low poly as it is should work perfectly for us. So if we just copy this name, this path, come back here to the content browser, I'm going to go up to select content and just add a new folder, call it column, and then open that up. I can click on the add import again and say import, navigate to that folder. I'm going to select all three of my textures and holding control, click on column LP, that's the low poly, and click open. All right, so here let's make sure we turn off generate collision, turn off generate light maps, scroll down, make sure do not create material is set and that we import textures is turned off and we say import. That brings everything in. So let's double click on our pack texture and make sure we turn off sRGB and hit save. There we go. Now in here let's go ahead and right click and say material. I'm going to do M underscore because it's material. We'll call this column. Now open that up. And what I'm going to do is just drag in the column. And I'm going to plug the RGB of that base color into base color. I'm going to drag in the normal and drag in the RGB of that. I'm going to connect that to normal. And then I'm going to bring in my packed texture, right? This is it has the name over there. So AO or occlusion, depending on how you named it. That goes to occlusion. The R stands for roughness. Oops. And so instead of RGB, I meant to do red because we only want the red channel in ambient occlusion. And then we take the green channel and we plug that into roughness, and the blue channel we plug into metallic. So now here's my materials for my column. I'm going to save that. And then if I double click to open the column, I can drag that material, and now there is my column. It's all set. So just hit save. And now I can take my column and bring it into the editor. So just click and drag. There's my column. I can bring in as many as I want. But there it is. That's how we bring in the column. So the same thing, if we happen to have other assets, we could bring them in. Let's go ahead. I'm going to rename this directory. We'll call this props. And now inside here, I'm going to import something else. I'm going to come up here and say import. And let's grab our Gladius. And again, I just want to grab my Gladius low poly and its three textures and say open. All right, all the settings are set from before, so we're good. All right, and there's the model, there's the textures. So instead of building a new material, I'm going to do something a little different. Let's open up the column. And what I'm going to do is on each one of these, I'm going to come up here, right click and say convert to parameter. And I'm going to type in base color. This next one, I'm going to right click and say AORM or ORM, either one, right? I'm going to call this normal. And what we're doing is we're turning these into parameters. And what that's going to do is going to a little bit of efficiency for us. We can put whatever we want in the name. That's not what's important. What's important is that there's a node here that's saying, hey, an image file gets plugged into normal. So we'll save this. Now I can right click and say material and textures, and I want to find material instance. Now I'm going to call this MI for material instance underscore Gladius. and open that up, which gives me a very different interface. If I select the M column and drag that up here to parent, what that does is it says, okay, there's a material, what parameters, what do I need to change? And since the only thing we're doing is just plugging in different textures, if I check these boxes, I can replace them, the different textures, I can replace them with all the ones from my sword. And so it's a little bit of a time saver creating these material instances. Now if I open up the Gladius, I can select that, and there he is. Now my texture's on it. I just hit save, and there we go. So now I have my Gladius and my column. Both of those are here. I can bring those both into the scene, and those are now in Unreal.